A few years ago, my good friend Michelle invited me to come hear a guest speaker at her church, and boy, am I so glad that I took her up on that. That was the evening that I was introduced to a gentleman named Bob Goff, and those of you who know Bob know what I'm saying. He's an amazing Christian speaker and author, and he's just a doer of love. And through his message and his book called Love Does, I was challenged in my own personal paradigm of love, even though it's the same love that Jesus talked about and the kind that looks like Jesus and pleases him. It's also the same love, though, that I struggle to find within me some days. You see, Bob hasn't written anything new. He's just taking Jesus's heart about love, and he's sharing inspiring stories of what love can look like today when we actually put love into practice. See, love wasn't meant to be talked about or to be pondered only. It isn't stationary. Love does. Well, I couldn't help but think of Bob as I was thinking about these couple of verses that I wanted to share today with you. They come from 1 Corinthians. This section of scripture, it's often referred to as the love chapter, and some of you may have even had it read at your wedding. Quick context just before we get rolling. Here Paul is writing this right after he talks about various spiritual gifts that had been given to the believers in Jesus. And these special gifts from the Spirit, they were given for the common good of others, actually. Well, then Paul slips this piece in, and he basically says, you want to up your game even more? Well, you got to get this one thing right then, for sure. And this is where we will pick up today, reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 and 5. It reads like this. It says, love is patient and love is kind. It is not jealous and it does not brag. It is not arrogant or rude. It is not dishonoring of others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. And it keeps no record of wrongs. Well, Paul, he's communicating two unique things here. First of all, he's reinforcing that if you say that you're following Jesus, then your life needs to look like his. And that means loving God and loving others. And secondly, Paul wanted to make sure that people could see that he was describing love by using action words. That love doesn't sit still and it's not hidden, but it does something. Love has both an internal and an external response. Well, something on occasion that I do, if I read a passage that I've become a little bit desensitized to because I've heard it so many times or read it, I try to spin it up so that I can read it differently and it'll affect me differently. And I want to give you an example here of what I mean. When I read this, that love is patient and kind, then I read where it says it's not jealous. So I would turn that phrase around and say love is content. Where it says love doesn't brag, I would reframe it as love is humble and it's meek. Love isn't arrogant or rude to me means that love is considerate of others and it's self-control. It's not self-seeking, which shows me it's others-seeking. And it's not easily angered, which tells me that it is patient and long-suffering, keeps no records of wrong. And that means that once a wrong has been amended, there's a clean slate that shouldn't be brought up again. You know, the truth is love is a really tall order for all of us that Jesus gave. And we need to do whatever it takes to keep that at the forefront of our minds. Because if love isn't what's fueling actions in your life, it's going to show. We've all experienced at some point in our life where there's someone else telling us that they love us, yet they're not showing it. Words are cheap is where that phrase comes from. And Jesus wanted us to understand this concept inside and outside as well. Well, I want to leave you with this thought as you go about your day today. It's one of my favorite quotes from Bob Goff. And this is what he had to say. He said, I used to be afraid of failing at things that really mattered to me, but now I'm afraid of succeeding at things that don't matter. Love does all sorts of things that might be uncomfortable and challenging. And you know what Jesus says? He says, do it anyways and trust me with the results. You got this. Hope you have a great day.